We're on.
Okay. So, welcome back to our interviews with artists and now curator as well as artists. And we are talking to Tami Fuller today, who has accomplished in much of the fiber art world and beyond. And this is part of the fiber, different fibers, which is an exhibition that's opening tonight. And some of Tami's work is featured here. And that is a smaller module of the larger Fiber Flurry that Tami and Jackie have reignited.
That's true.
So
Thank you for having me.
I'm delighted to be talking to you and to see your work. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So we started talking about, and you can talk about it again, how did you get involved with fiber?
Well, I have a background in farming, believe it or not. So my family owns about 300 acres in Ellicottville, in Southern Tier. Now 5 generations, I think, at this point. The land has been ours, and it's been a lot of different things over the years. But when I was about 12, my mother decided to retrofit our farm, which is one of those, traditional, typical Western New York hill farms. Dodgy land. She decided to retrofit the whole pasture land for sheep. We converted from Belgian draft horse breeders to sheep, and we did the thing. We brought 3 scraggly ewes home in the back of a minivan, as you do, and started sheep. I learned to weave on a very large antique barn loom, 8-shaft. We had a farm shop. We had, I think, at one point up to about 40 sheep. All of the different sort of things that you do. I am not a farmer. They tried. It didn't take. I did my best, but some people are just wired for some things and some for others.
Yes, they are. And it's very refreshing to have you say that, because so many people like to claim, oh, I come from farmers, I'm really a farmer, and they're not. There are other things, and that's perfectly honorable, but no, good for you.
Well, don't get me wrong, I am a farm girl. I can lift anything. And even if I can't lift it, I will try. But as far as the sentiment, the broader sentiment, I learned, and then I promptly ran away to the farm for higher education, as far away and as quickly as I could. And I went off to study genetics. And ultimately, through the course of my, adulthood, working in corporate and risk management and all sorts of things, the journey, in my late 20s, I came back to fiber on my own terms. I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, and I got a mad hair, so to speak, as you say, to connect with the fiber arts. I think a lot of people, a lot of women especially, tend to have one of those moments. And some, everybody's got their own version. And I started felting and spinning, and reacquainting myself with the wheel. And I was very clear up front that I would only make useless things. Only interesting useless
Oh, I'd like to
things.
hear you talk. It's very nice.
And then that's kind of where it ended. It started with making. I say that I wanted to make useless things. I did start making useful things because that is kind of how you have to, on some level, work. But to make a living, of course. So I started making felt balls, dryer balls, out of this little pantry in off my kitchen. After my kiddos, my babies went to bed, and I started selling them to the women at my book club, and then the women at my book club told other people, and then, it kind of went from there. I started teaching. I was invited to teach fiber workshops at New Sharp in East Aurora in 2017. I started working with them in the Roycroft Inn, and then in 2018 I started studio practice on Elm, and then the tenor of everything kind of shifted, and I really was finally able to work on really truly useless.
Which is some of the most useful things, in the world.
Exactly, yeah.
What you create from your heart and your motivation.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's useful.
I think it's very useful. I always say that with,
Of course, the air quotes.
it's useless.
So, you've had a winding and wondrous path, and here we are sitting in front of one of your, I would say probably, from what I saw on the web, this one keeps coming up. Is this one of your favorites? Call to Arms, it's called?
Yes, it's Call to Arms. It is probably my favorite. Well, that's hard to say.
One of them.
One of them. It's certainly the largest and brightest and most bold use of fiber that I've done. It's hard to pick a favorite because every piece that I do has intent behind it. But yes.
Well, I was reading your artist statements in the program for today about this, and given what you were talking about, things that are associated with women or women reinventing themselves or concepts, postmodern concepts, identity concepts. I think I love this piece. I've been studying it since I arrived, and the three-dimensionality of it, the combination of acrylics and metal. You chose yak and silk. Why did you choose yak and silk?
Necessity. No, I needed something. So the original, the vision for this piece has actually been with me for, I would say, since 2018. It was very early when I started practice. I came across a graphic image of a woman in a flock of birds who was trying very hard to become untethered, and she was kind of trapped. So there was that straining and that sense of striving to escape limitation and the heaviness. And I knew I couldn't pull it off at the time, but it stayed with me, and it kind of went through various iterations over the years. But when I originally envisioned this, the outpouring here, because Call to Arms can mean a lot of different things.
Yes.
And this piece does mean a lot of different things depending on my mood and where I'm at.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it needed the sense is a sense of purge. So there's that call to arms, which is a rallying cry.
Yes.
But the true nature of it is that when we expose, we're so quiet, we're so careful in our speech, and I'm very careful with my speech. But when we carry things that are difficult or dark or heavy, it can be a really big struggle to voice them in a way that makes sense to other people, right?
Well, that's how this speaks to me.
Yeah, well, the yak was chosen because this is a blend of yak and silk. It was very, very soft. It has iridescence to it. I needed something with darkness to show that, to kind of show that what comes out at first when we scream, what comes out at first is often dark and violent and needs to purge. But the more we speak those things, the cleaner and clearer they become. And in the hope that eventually, the more we express these things, the more we get a sense of that. I'm a writer and a musician as well, so I know that when I start something, a song or a piece, or if I'm writing something, what comes out first is generally has the most strength and the most tone, but it doesn't always get to the truth of the thing. It needs to be refined.
And you curate it.
You curate it, I guess. I mean, I hate the thought of curating speech, because, right.
Well, right now is not a good. Yeah, I'll retract that, but I was trying to find a segue for the last 2 seconds of which, all right, so, my bad. I didn't curate my own language well. So, how does artists become curator?
Chance, and bold, reckless chance. I have a philosophy that says if something frightens you or you're presented with I have 2 philosophies. I have a lot of philosophies. First of all, if someone approaches me with the chance to do something, or if I'm presented with the chance to do something, if it feels right, unless there's a reason to say no, I will always say yes.
We're common spirits.
Always. And then the other thing that I have is if something frightens me, and this is so juvenile, in a way, but I'm this tiny little scrapper farm girl, I guess. So if something frightens me or scares me, that's when I say that is exactly when you do it. So when I had a studio in the building, in the artist community that I was part of for 5 years. And then when it started to go to being sold to new owners, I left. I needed to leave. You have to leave when the time is right.
Yep.
And when I left, it was always on the understanding that when there would be a space available, in 6 months or so.
Sure.
I had started managing acting as curator and gallerist of that space, that community art space. And I did that for about a year. And then when I left, I wasn't sad to leave the space because it was time, but I was very sad to leave that sense of putting things together, to see different narratives emerge from the art, to look at something and to see how it underpins another concept and how you can create a story with the object that's unspoken and kind of weaves its way through. So it's weaving of a different sort, really. So when the opportunity came to start the comma with Christina Paul and Liz Berardi, who are friends of mine, who are also female artists, it was terrifying and abrupt, and it dropped in our lap, and all the things that I just said. Of course I did it. Of course I did it.
Okay. Thank you very much.